Now I'm going to take out the AMOS board kit, the front and back electronics boxes, and I'll take out the fish finder box and cable junction box as well, and we'll just insert them into the holes on the surfboard there. Just be careful of the pH probe, you don't want to damage that. Let's try and get that out of the way. Okay, so it's really not much to this part. You just kind of push down gently on the box, and it'll just sit in there. It's a pretty nice snug fit. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing for the back electronics box. Servo motor end goes at the back. Okay. And now we'll put the junction box in the middle. Just has to squeeze in a little bit. You don't have to squeeze it in too far. That's good. And I'll go get the fish finder. Put that in as well. Okay. So now for the back, I'll squeeze in the fish finder a bit tighter later on. And we want to hook the cables in a bit later. Okay, so this servo motor needs to be bolted down onto this back piece here. So we need the hood of our connection kit here. There should be, actually, connection hardware for that is inside the box. Because of all the weight that's on this lid, sometimes I find this back lid in particular will come off the hinges. That's okay, you can just snap it back on. It won't, once the lid is snapped down, it won't come off. But sometimes you do have to snap it back on. Here we go. Okay. So in this baggie, let's see if I can show it. There's a few different pieces. There's an aluminum post. That's for the GPS antenna. We'll attach that in a moment. And you'll notice there's 4 long M3 bolts with their M3 nuts, and that's what we're going to use for attaching the servo motor. Maybe I'll just swing this around so we can have a better look at it. Try to untwist the cable as much as we can. Okay, so put these down, and yeah, I don't think I can hand screw these much. Maybe. Just get them started. Okay. Let's do one at each corner. Maybe put one, slide one in here. Good. And one down here. Okay. Now I'll get my Allen keys up. I think that's down here. Little socket wrench tool. I think this might be the right size. We'll find out. Tighten them a little bit at first. I want to get them too uneven here. These things are small and tricky to work with. Okay, there we go. Might be a bit faster. Try that. There we go. Good. It's a great size. And more down here. This is a little bit tight in here. Oh, dropped it. There we go. Just hold that down. Hit it from the top. It's in. Actually, this one that's in a bit tight here, I think I'll just hold it with a little pair of pliers. Rotate from the top, that'll work just as well. Once again, here in these, we don't want to over tighten it too much. We don't want to crack the plastic. We want to try and get an even amount of force on each of these bolts here. Yeah, using the pliers is an easier way to do it. There. Just tighten that one up a bit more so it matches the others. So that part's done. Now we can connect the cables on the fish finder. I'll just show the different fish finder connections here. On the far left, that's the power connection. It's two prong. There's 5 prongs here. No, 6 prongs. This is the serial connection. Only 4 of the holes are actually used for the serial cable. And the last one is the sonar transducer cable. So you can connect all 3 of those cables now. So sonar. And serial data cables coming out of the top corner of the front electronics unit there. So connect that. And power cables coming out of the black junction box there. Find where that is. Looks like it's underneath. Okay. Alright, so maybe I'll just coil this up a bit. When you're actually connecting these cables, you'll probably want to use some cable ties to get them as neat and organized as possible. You want to make sure the cables, when they're underneath the surfboard, don't hang out to the sides at all, and because you wouldn't want them to get snagged on branches or other things on the water. Okay, so right. Is this right? No, it goes the other way. So the hummingbird letters are facing towards the front end of the boat. I just have the 3 cables coming up from the front or from the top end of the fish finder there. If you wanted to route them a different way, that's fine too. The serial data cable is the shortest one. You just want to make sure you have enough length there for that one. If there's not enough slack in that cable, you'll have difficulty opening the front electronics box. And one last cable we want to hook up is the GPS antenna. So before we do that, though, I'm just gonna open this box. Oh, we already did that. We already got the GPS post out. So let's take that and we'll stick that in. Okay. So on this post there's sort of 2 threads. There's a sort of a fine thread on this end and a not as fine thread on that end. So the fine thread will be on the bottom, and that goes into this plastic locking nut, and there's a little O-ring that that sits on top of the electronics box to seal it against moisture. So I'm just going to take it right off the hinges there, and just put some of these wires aside a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to attach the locking nut. This is a bit tricky. Okay. Yeah, so I'm actually, there's not a whole lot of room here, so it's easier if you just hold the locking nut in place and rotate the post with your other hand. And just rotate until you feel it get tight. Almost there. That's pretty good. And once you're done, you'll notice the maybe a couple millimeters of the post is sticking up above the locking nut there. Okay, so we can put the door back on. Okay, close the latches. No, that's still not quite tight enough. Let's give it a bit more. Easier this way. There, that's better. Okay. Right then. Okay. So we can get the GPS antenna out of the box. There's a little black plastic cap, or black rubber cap, I guess. I'll take that off and put it back in the box. And this just screws right on. Okay. And there's a BNC connector there, so that goes to this end. This GPS cable is really quite long, so you'll want to take up the extra length and try and get it neat so that it doesn't stick out under this from the sides of the solar panel. Okay. So there's a bit of extra length. Sometimes what I do too is I'll just wrap the extra length a few times around the post. Just the only thing you have to make sure is that it doesn't get in the arc of the propeller. You can see there the propeller's got a few centimeters clearance from the antenna, but you wouldn't want the cable to get snagged in it. And I'll just screw the GPS antenna cable on the BNC connector there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that stage. So now what we want to do, we want to insert the battery. So I've got a battery on hand here. It's the Dakota lithium iron phosphate battery, 12 volt, 10 amp hour. So red plus, black negative. And we open this, you'll notice that within here, connected to the solar charge controller, there's a cable with plus and minus markings on it, red and black, and those are connected to the battery terminals on the solar charge controller. So we'll hook this up to the solar charge controller, plus, negative, and as soon as you do that, yeah, oh, the switch was on. I'm just going to turn that off for now. So those beeps were the startup beeps that you get when you turn on the switch. So that's good. It means we've got power. So yeah, you want to hook up your battery before you connect the solar terminals. That's what the solar charge controller recommends doing. They say that it could potentially damage the solar charge controller if you don't hook up the battery first. It hasn't been my experience that the solar charge controller has been damaged by hooking up solar connectors first, but really it's best to follow the manufacturer's recommendations in that. Okay, so, and you'll notice on the solar charge controller it reads the voltage. It's saying 13.1 volts right now. Okay, so we can close back up the box. And when you're opening and closing these boxes too, it's good to be careful. Make extra certain there's no wires sticking out on the sides. Sometimes the wires, if they are sticking out, will get pinched. And if you feel extreme resistance to closing it, just back off and take a second look. Make sure there's no wires sticking out on the edges there. Okay, so these red and black cables here coming out of the box with these connectors on them, those will be hooking into the solar panel. So we can do that now. We'll take out the solar panel, and actually before the solar panel, maybe it might be an idea to hook up the underwater camera, and we'll do that.